Hey, I'm back.
Perfect. Okay, so what you were saying, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just really reiterating the importance of building your personal brand, and from a psychological perspective, why that matters so much. And I was saying that in order to make our decisions, we use the crowd as a steer to help us survive in certain social situations. And a good example is if you see a crowd of people running, you're going to start running. When you want to go spend an hour of your time in a movie theater watching a movie you've never seen, you seek the crowd's opinion in order to make a better decision. And the same applies for personal branding. If there's a million people following Jason and his opinion and his page, it provides a level of sort of social validation that says maybe Jason has something worth listening to, and it will give you that extra ear or that extra bit of attention, which I think when it comes to surviving and playing in the social media context, it goes a long way. And also, if you think about the way the algorithms work across all of the main social platforms, LinkedIn being the big professional platform, literally the more comments and likes you get on LinkedIn, it's a real standout platform in this way. The more people you will reach. So say that I've spent the last 5 years building my personal brand, and I've got now about 100,000 followers on my LinkedIn. When I post something saying that our company is offering a new service, for example, it's going to reach more potential customers because I've built this base of people that are there not just for my services, not just for marketing, but are there for quotes, for thoughts, for humor, whatever it might be. And again, it's like your pension fund, your personal brand. You're paying into it slowly over time without even knowing you have a personal brand. Every single person listening to this now has a personal brand. If you don't think you do, it's probably not a very developed one. And yeah, in this social media age, when you go to hire someone, the first thing you're doing is you're looking at their social media profiles, you're looking at what they're talking about, who they're hanging out with, what photos they're taking. This is what the studies say. So even if you're not trying to be a CEO, it still will have a tremendous impact on you at all levels in an organization. And that's something I do. Before I personally hire someone, I will always look at their social media profiles and see what they're interested in and, those kinds of things.
So so let me ask you a question. When did you decide you wanted to do what you wanted to do, but then get it to the level where it is now? I mean, there had to be did you imagine you were going to be working with Apple, Coca-Cola, speaking on stages with Barack Obama, or did you have like stages of growth, like stages of where you focus on how to grow to this point?
Do you know what it is? And you've got to be careful because people will always bullshit you in hindsight. So they'll say, oh, I had it all planned out like this and this. And that makes people that don't have their plan perfect feel inadequate or like they're not worthy or something. And I think if I'm honest with myself, I always believed that at about 16 years old, I thought I was different, a little bit different from my peers in the sense that by about 16, 17, 18 years old, I'm running the school trips for our school, 1,500 kids. They're all white kids. I'm pretty much the only black kid in a school of 1,500 white kids. I've done the deal for all the vending machines in our school so that our school don't have to pay for the machines in sixth form, that they're making revenue from it, and they were going to pay for them. And I was sat there at 16 thinking, my grades aren't going to be good enough to please my mum and my dad, and my brothers and sisters were really smart. So I don't think I'm going to get it that way. And this is the way that the institutions have told me. Well, that's the only way that the institutions and school told me you could get it, right? Was getting grades. And so I got to 16 and realized that I wasn't going to enough classes to do well on the tests. So I thought, at that point, I realized that if what I've been able to do in school, in persuading my peers to come to these events and persuading these companies to give us free machines, if those same principles carried on throughout the rest of my life, then I would be really good. I went off to university, went to one lecture, dropped out straight away. And again, I realized that it was all on me, and that the grades weren't going to help me get there. A degree wasn't going to help me get there. And it was really, really all on me. And that's when I started my first business when I was 18. And I couldn't imagine at 18 years old, 27-year-old Steve living any other life. And I talk about about this particular point with my business partner a lot and often. And I wrote in my diary when I was literally shoplifting Chicago Town pizzas to feed myself, that I wrote 4 things in my diary, and everybody's seen my diary. It's on my Facebook if you want to go see it, because we found it a couple of years after. I said, I was 18 years old. I said, I want a Range Rover Sport to be my first car before I'm 25. These are all my goals before I was 25. I want to be a millionaire on paper. I want to work on my body image because I was super skinny. and I want to have a long-term relationship. Those are the 4 things I set myself as goals when I was literally stealing pizzas, right? And by the age of 25, I'd done all of them. And Range Rover Sport was my first car. But bear in mind, when I wrote that, I'd never driven. I didn't have a driving license, right? I didn't get a driving license until I was 22. So
wait, so have you always been a belief in manifesting what you want?
No.
No?
Yes and no. And people hate when I say this, right? Because I realize, you know, there's something about...
you have to do the work, but I do believe in like,
yeah.
You manifested
so
all those 4 things.
Here's the thing. So it's like getting in a car in the morning, right? I get in my car in the morning and I put in a sat nav. I say, I want to go to the office, or I want to go to my dreams, or whatever. I put in the sat nav where I want to go. If I then sit there, the car ain't gonna move. Like,
yeah, you gotta
so of course I put in my sat nav. I said, this is what I want my life to look like. But then that means nothing unless you turn the car on. And that's what I did for the next 7 years of my life. Was I just gave everything, and I sacrificed things disproportionately to make that a reality. And here's the crazy punchline, which nobody's expecting, right? So you get to 25 years old, you're worth whatever on paper, who gives a fuck, and you realize that you can pretty much buy pretty much all of the things you've ever dreamed of buying. But at the same time, you realize that if you buy them, your life will go down a path of emptiness that will make you poorer inside in the long term. And I remember that day, 25 years old, the first time someone offered to like buy our company. And I go home, 18-year-old Steve shows up. He goes on Rightmove and Auto Trader, cars, houses, and he's like, we're gonna get what we worked for, right? I'm sat there, I remember everything about that night when I came back from the office. I'm looking at these cars, the Lamborghinis, the Rolls Royce, the mansion in the countryside, and I'm staring at them and thinking to myself, if I buy these things, then what? And was this it? Because I genuinely know that if I buy this Lamborghini Aventador, I will feel no different. And it hits you like it hit me like a stampede of elephants, which is, shit, if it wasn't about the Aventador, then why did I just give 7 years of my life? And
right.
Genuinely, for the next 6 months, I was just totally confused. I was like, I'm showing up to work still. 18-year-old Steve told me it was about the Aventador. 25-year-old Steve doesn't give a fuck about an Aventador and knows that it will make him inherently poorer inside. So, you know, what the fuck am I doing? And why am I getting up, and why do I enjoy it? And so I think I had to like sort of organize my why, and really reconnect myself with why I was doing what I was doing. And to be honest, like disconnect myself to that insecure kid that thought a Lamborghini Aventador would make him happier or more valuable or get more girls or something. And that's what I've done in the last about 2.5 years, is really detach myself as much as I can from needing the validation of loads of stuff and balling on Instagram. Like, if you go on my Instagram, you have no idea if I'm balling, if I'm not, because it doesn't matter. You like,
wait, I want to stop right there for a minute. Yes,
sure.
Okay, so before we went on this quarantine, I had a trip to Paris because I had told Christian Louboutin I was going to come to, he was having a show, right?
Yeah.
So I was in New York. I bought like 4 pairs of Christian Louboutins, spent almost $4,000. Now, mind you, I don't even wear Christian Louboutin shoes like that, but I was doing it because I was going to go to Paris and I was going to pop up, lunch at Christian with 1 pair, party with Christian with another pair. With respect to like everybody at home now during quarantine, trying to figure out how to pivot, and you consulting some of the largest companies in the world, what are you seeing and what do you think people should be doing?
Yeah, it's a really interesting time as it relates to business owners and companies. And there's a couple of principles I think are really important to embrace. And you have to embrace these principles, because if you don't, then you risk falling into a negative cycle, which becomes a race to the bottom. And the first principle I'd say is, none of this was your fault, but it is your responsibility, right? And this is something that people don't like. Nobody likes responsibility, right? Typically, like, the sense of like truly taking responsibility for your life, especially taking responsibility for circumstances that were outside of your control, makes you feel uncomfortable. But the thing in the long term that will definitely make you more uncomfortable in your life is not taking any responsibility at all. And this is one of those situations where like you've got to like refrain from blame. You've got to refrain from blaming governments too much, or this person, or how they reacted, or what we could have done, and or hindsight. And you've just got to get to work, because I swear to God, every day you spend blaming someone or feeling sorry for yourself in a time of crisis is a day taken from you finding the solution. And you know, I always talk about two different types of leaders in my business, and I've talked about this for a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years. Is this dude a rapper? This is literally what I get when I get on planes.
But you know what's funny, because
Isn't that so funny?
we typically talk to a lot of rappers, but you know, Steven is an extremely successful entrepreneur, and to be so young and so successful. I mean, I've even hit you to say, yo, you're an inspiration to me too, specifically around how you built your personal brand, you know? And so, and I think you've also done another thing that I've done. You've created multiple streams of revenue. So when one business is affected, you have multiple other streams still moving.
Exactly. And I'm really particularly interested in the stock market at the moment. So our business went public at the end of last year, but I'm heavily involved in you know, investing in other companies. Coming back to the point I was saying, one of the two different types of leaders you tend to see in moments of crisis. And I'm gonna give you the analogy of this room that I'm currently in being on fire, right? So this room is on fire, and there's 2 people in this room. Person number A, they'll sit there and they'll go, the room is on fire. The room is on fire. Oh my God, the room is on fire. The room is on fire. They'll point at the fire and say, the room is on fire, right? Person B won't need to mention the fact the room is on fire, because we all know the room is on fire. We can smell the smoke. They will dedicate 100% of their energy to figuring out how to get out of the burning room. Person A dies in the room, right? Because your mindset is so intrinsically connected to your outcome. Like, people don't realize that. People think that their outcome is given to fate or the fairies at the bottom of the garden. But your mindset, when you go into a mode of crisis, will literally dictate your outcome in that situation. So if you go into a moment of crisis like we're in now, with a sense of optimism, with a sense of responsibility, it wasn't your fault, but it is your responsibility, and with a sense of proactivity, and not feeling like a victim in this situation, the net negative effect that this situation will have on you, this global pandemic, will be drastically reduced. If you go into the situation as a pessimist, or with a blame sort of centric mindset, or with a defeatist or victim mindset, I swear to God, this crisis is going to last forever, and a long, long time for you. It's going to extend further than it should have extended. And I'll be honest with you, we saw that in our business. You know, March was a month where things hit hard, right? You know, a lot of our business is dependent on these big Fortune 500 companies and these big brands doing well. And a lot of them didn't do well. And that meant that a lot of them had to change things up. And March was a tough month, but because of the reaction from our team, where we all came together and said, here are the facts, here are the numbers, something that I've really never done before. Here are the numbers, and here's where we're at, and we're all in this together, and here's how we make it out of here. Again, kind of relating back to the guy of course the fucking room's on fire. We need to get out of the room. When you look at what happened in April for our business, it's pretty awesome. And it's like, and when I have this bird's eye view on this, on you know, the 700 people we employ across 5 different countries now, you can literally see how one person here, one person here, one person here, and how that compounds together to have a tremendous impact on the bottom line of our business. And it's literally individuals and individual reactions that have compounded together to get us out of that. I also could see if those individuals didn't behave how they behaved. And again, this is the bird's eye view you get from my position. And you can say, well, if he hadn't done that and he hadn't done that and we would be 30% down here. But yeah, and it's the same in your personal life. It all comes down to how you respond in times of crisis. And to give you a little bit more of a tactical, and this is another mindset principle, which I think can be applied to every facet of your life. One of the most important things that you need to do when the foundation you exist on shifts is you need to respond in an equally fundamental way. The impact to your business has been fundamental, so you need to mirror that with an equally fundamental reaction. And this is, you know, in this context, radical innovation. Question becomes, how do you innovate? And I've thought a lot about innovation and where it comes from, and how you can innovate in and of yourself. And it all comes down to what Elon Musk refers to as first principles, which are the most fundamental things that you know to be true in a situation. And if you can't think like, because it's incredibly hard to think about first principles, it's incredibly hard to think about the most fundamental things you know to be true right now, because we're all conditioned to think in terms of convention, in terms of what's already been done. So if I say to you, Jason, if I say start a talk show on YouTube, first thing you do is you go get a microphone, 2 chairs, a
Wait,
table.
are you being funny though? Because I am starting one.
Well, of course you are. Yeah, I mean, but like, this is just giving you an example. Like, I'm giving you an example.
Wait, did you know that I was doing that?
No, but I'm living in the future out here. I'm joking.
Funny. Okay, I'm actually doing that.
Oh, well, there you go. Little plug. but anyway, so if I say go start a talk show, the first thing you do is you pull up 2 chairs, you go get a microphone, because you have this mental image, this mental model of what a talk show is. So you just resort back to convention. But if you really wanted to kill it with your new talk show, you would go right back to first principles. I've applied first principles in my life in key moments to get ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying, to the entrepreneurs who are, who do in-person services, trainers, or whatever, even artists who are thinking of reaching or having to pivot now to reach their consumer or grow their consumer base. What advice do you have for them on how to utilize social media? Yeah,
I'm gonna take this in another. You're exactly right, and typically the advice that you'd give to a personal trainer or someone that's using social media to drive their business is go read about social media and then go put that stuff into play. Here's the problem with that, right? And you would have experienced this yourself in a big way. Social media changes every single day. The algorithms change literally every single. If you look at the apps and how often they push updates, it's usually across all of the major 10 apps twice a week, right? So that's pretty much like 1.5 changes a day to these social media platforms. So if you go in, read a book about it, if you go and get a textbook or Google it, you're going to get outdated information, but also information that won't secure the bag for your future. So you need a philosophy, which is, and this is the philosophy. It's very simple, and it's really the reason I'm here, Jason. It's that experimentation is your strategy, right? And you're gonna try some shit. You're gonna see how it did. You're gonna learn from it. You're gonna go in the analytics and see the performance of that particular thing. You're really gonna read the analytics as well, right? Because if all of you can look at your own posts now and see which ones of your posts are getting you more followers, which ones are getting more shares, which ones are, if it's a video, which ones are more compelling to one gender and the other gender. You really need to listen, and then you need to sort of return the process, which is, so it's try, fail, learn, improve. And a little bit of an anecdote on that is when I started my startup at 18, we were trying to figure out how to do marketing. And so we went out onto the streets of Manchester. We got these flyers, we put them up everywhere at 6 a.m. in the morning. Nobody came to my website. Went and did posters the next day, tried posters. Nobody came to the website. Literally wrote on the posters that we will give you £100 to come to our website. Nobody came to the website. We tried everything, but we kept trying. And then one day I saw a social media page called Student Problems on Twitter. I messaged the guy, and this was probably after 3 months of just trying stuff, having exhausted all the conventional stuff, trying new things that no one had ever told me about before. Messaged the guy called Dominic McGregor. He's my business partner and co-founder now. Dropped out of university. He had 5,000 followers on that Twitter page. Moved to Manchester. This was in 2014, before 2013, before social media was popping. And I bought that. We acquired that page off him. We built tons of other social media pages. We now have, just shy of 100 million followers across all of our big brands. So Sporf on Instagram has 15 million. Student Problems is now the biggest student community on social media in the world. It's got 10 million followers. And that's what launched our business. And it was that one experiment, right? That one rogue experiment. I'll put 50 quid here and I'll try and do this thing with this random guy off the internet that created Social Chain. And if you look at Amazon and you listen to Jeff Bezos and his interviews about why Amazon's been successful, his literal sentence is, experimentation is our strategy. And the Kindle was just an in-house experiment at Amazon, and all these other things that they are now sort of core parts of their business just started as experiments. Books was his original experiment. We're going to open up an online bookshop. And I think that's the mindset that you need, because especially in social media, which changes all the time, I can't tell you the secrets 6 months from now. The only way you're going to know the secrets is if you are a practitioner, which means if you're there doing it, posting, hustling, hacking, you know, DMing people and saying, hey, shout me out, and putting hashtags and seeing if hashtags work. That's the strategy, right? That's the strategy. And yeah, and this is the key thing, and why some people won't like this strategy, because it's not quick, right? And simple sells. So if I was to say to you, oh, you just got a 3-step strategy and you'll get 1 million followers, people would lap that shit up and they'd buy my course. But the truth is, it's years and years of sharpening that sword to get it to be so sharp, right? And
Right.
I don't know any other way. And I posted on my Instagram a second ago a quote by this guy on Twitter, and it says that people spend years trying to find a shortcut. And for me, it's just it's so damn true, which is they spend 5-10 years looking for a shortcut. If they just put in the work for 5 or 10 years and didn't have to ball on Instagram and just let it they would have had it.
Yeah. All right. So, what's next for Social Chain? I mean, I feel like you've done, I mean, have you done a book yet? You know, you have a book.
It's coming out. That's
what I'm saying. You've done everything.
It's written, so it's published in. It was meant to be published in September, but then the coronavirus meant that a lot of the bookshops shut around the world, and even online bookshops shut, which meant that you couldn't buy it, you couldn't pre-order it, right? In like India and stuff, it's crazy. So pretty much all of the books have been pushed back this year. I've decided to move mine into the first quarter of next year. It's called Happy Sexy Millionaire, and again, it's just about how wrong I was about happiness, attractiveness, and validation, and wealth. And not just wrong about what they would mean to me, but also fundamentally wrong about how to get them. And it's just like, it's the book that I would write if I didn't care about being cancelled as well. I call out a lot of people and a lot of things and a lot of parts of our culture. And for me, that book is my intervention. It's the things that I just desperately feel that I need to say. And trust me, I didn't want to write a book. But I spent a long time on it. What's next for Social Chain? You know, it sounds like a crazy thing to say, right? For all of the reasons I've stated above about how fast the landscape changes, I've never like anchored myself on a particular business plan or future strategy. And our strategy will heavily be dependent on how the wider context of the world shifts and how technology changes and virtual reality and how that, you know, impacts our lives. And I know our values. I know how we'll be behaving philosophically, but where we'll be in the next couple of years, 3-5 years, I don't know. We'll be happy and we'll be in a good place. And we'll be doing great work. That's what I know.
Well, at some point, Hollywood Unlocked needs to work with Social Chain. You know, I've been telling you this. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we want to continue to grow our influence and our reach, because I totally get the power of social media and how to monetize it. You know, I don't know everything you know, but that's why I know you.
I want to ask you a question. What's next for Hollywood Unlocked?
Well, I have a YouTube talk show coming up. Actually, right. I recorded a song for the opening, which is different than anything I've ever done. I'm doing all the graphics. I had to buy all the equipment, as you said. We did a really big TV deal before this whole thing happened, so that's on hold. I mean, and just focusing on ways of continuing to be innovative for the brand, but also just to continue to maximize and hit where we're hot, you know? And so, yeah.
What do you want?
Huh?
What do you want? That question's purposely broad.
I want to continue to grow this company towards a successful exit, so I could retire, move on to invest and do other things that I want to do.
Okay, interesting. You'll get there. You're doing remarkable things already, and I think you have a talent that I'm not quite sure if even you appreciate. And I don't say that lightly. So.
You know, I'll say, no, it's fair. I mean, I'm just focused on the work, and that's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, you have to try to learn. I'm learning how to enjoy it more as I go along. I think the first 2 weeks of the coronavirus thing and the quarantine was really overwhelming for me, because I've never been still this long. So it's just like, man, you know, but then you're in your mind. But now I've been able to like process that this is the new normal for now, and now it's time to continue to create. So I'm creating the stuff for when outside opens and when the industry's back to work. Okay, let's sell this, let's sell that, you know. And so, yeah, I'm doing okay now. But the first 2 weeks, I was like, man, I was having panic attacks.
Really?
Yeah, really? I was overwhelmed, because I've never stayed in the house for 2 months. Are you crazy? I haven't even stayed in LA for 2 months.
It's crazy. And did you see it impact your business in a big way? I'm guessing. I mean, everybody did. So.
Well, I mean, we can't go to the radio station and do our radio show, but now we're doing it at home. We couldn't go to do our podcast at the studio, but now we're doing it at home. Our advertising's been up 3 times because our streaming's up. Our people are online trying to figure it out. I think the only thing is just the projects that we had. Like we were going to do a music festival this year. You know, we had raised $1 million. We were in the process of raising another $6 million. We had all these plans, so those plans are on hold. But you know, for the most part, the core of our business is doing great.
Good, good, and it's looking like it's going to get better quick, right? That's what
I
we're
hope
starting
so.
to see.
What do you think? You think the industry's going to? Do you think the industry was sort of like in a shock stage where they had to like they didn't
In
know
March?
what? Yeah.
In March, yeah. I mean, even people that weren't hit badly changed up. Like that's the crazy thing. So even our clients that are performing better than they've ever done before in the month of March, they also had to pause and say, okay, we can't do anything outside in terms of marketing, so we need to rethink this whole thing. And then in April, a lot of them, you know, a lot of businesses have been able to refocus that. But of course, there's been some real losers from all of this. There's been, you know, anybody in the hospitality industry in particular, events, restaurants, bars, you know, they've been hit particularly hard. And we have, you know, we have clients in that in those industries as well. And it's interesting, and I'm quite intrigued by what the new normal will look like, because we all know that we're not going back to life as we knew it, especially not straight away. There's going to be a different type of life, I think, in between, especially as it relates to remote working and things like that. So I think that the sensible thing to do as an entrepreneur in this moment is to prepare for the worst, quite
Yeah.
frankly, because yeah, that kind of attitude will safeguard you. And I think that's what I'm telling all my friends to do as well, that run businesses, is to assume the worst for sure.
Yeah, well, that's good advice. Well, I know that's advice we're going to continue to listen to. But listen, this thing froze again, so we're going to end here. I'm going to reach out to you directly because I have another question unrelated to this that I want to hit you with. But thank you for doing this. And man, thank you for being an inspiration to a lot of young tech entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs, because I know, you know, I know we don't see each other that often, but I watch you and I really love what you've done, you know, with your business and your brand, and your website is fucking sick.
You, bro. Thank you.
All right, cool.